Hello, welcome to episode 5 of See You Next Thursday. We are back again talking today about relationships and culture clash, which are slightly intertwined for myself. But Jenny, we'll let you kick off with relationships.
Yes. Relationships. So we're not just talking about, you and your partner relationship. It could be friendships, could be like friendships that you formed with colleagues. But obviously, the main one we're talking about today is about relationship, and we want to know what's made your relationship stronger. But for me, I think through marriage, through labor, giving birth, having kids, all of it affects your relationship to an extent. Get married, there's always, lovey-dovey, oh, let's get married, yeah, cool. When you have kids, it affects the marriage, it affects the relationship. And for those who say, oh, it's made us stronger, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, probably it has made us stronger to an extent, but if anything, it has made me resent Simon a lot. And again, just to reiterate, disclaimer, I love Simon. I love my husband. But man, do I want to strangle him at times? Yeah, fuck yes, I do want to strangle him. I think since having kids, there's always like a competition to see who's most tired, like who's done the night shift, and it's always going to be me that does the night shift. And I think in the early days of when Mila was born, Simon wasn't around much, and I think in miscommunication between me and him as to do I want him at home because he's self-employed. He doesn't have the guaranteed sort of parental leave that you normally would if you work for a company, right? So he was only really with us under a week when Mila was first born. And as a Chinese person or Asian in general, you have like a thing called a confinement period where you have to stay at home for 30 days. You're not allowed to like touch water, wash your hair. Obviously, I did all that shit, but you're not allowed to physically go out unless it's like appointments with your baby. My mum, very nice. She came over to look after me and Mila, but Simon wasn't around. And as you've just given birth, your first child, you want your partner to be around, and it made me resent him a lot because he was going out, like working. He was working. He wasn't going out socializing or having a drink. He was going out. Yeah, can you imagine? Yeah. So I, regardless of whether he was working hard or not, I still resented him because I'm just like, I've just given birth. This is my first baby, and you're not around to help. So it made me really pissed off at him. And there's so many times where I just thought, oh, I can't deal with this on my own anymore. And there was this thing called baby blues. So I think by day 3 or day 4, after you come back from giving birth, you get really emotional. And I started crying and just broke down in tears. I'm like, I can't do it anymore. You're not around. So I think it helped because he saw me break down, and I think he realized, oh shit, okay, you're not okay. So I think if I didn't communicate that with him, I don't think he would have realized that I was really struggling. And you struggle, right? As a parent, you struggle, especially even when you've just given birth. Like, I don't know what I'm doing with this like crying thing. Like, I need help. But as much as my mum was around to help, it's not the same, right? Yeah. You can't really say the certain things to your mum that you would to your partner. So I think, having kids definitely made us somewhat stronger. But there are times where, even now, right, with our second one, I don't need him around as much. But I still feel like if we spent more time like together with Mila, like if we had more date nights, I think it would have been better. I regret not doing that. And I think with relationships, you need constant communication, right? But you also need to kind of revive that sort of spark that you first had when you met each other like 9-10 years ago, which for now, for us, is like we just fucking fall asleep in front of the TV after like 10 minutes. That's the romance that we have right now, which is a shame, but it's like, well, I've just given birth 5 months ago. Last thing I want to do is get romantic again. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just like, yeah. So I think that's one thing about relationships that I kind of regret not doing more, is like going out more, like date nights, and just not communicating clearly from the get-go. Whereas this time around, I made it very clear with him, like, I want you around for the first 2 weeks of like Lara being born. But then by sort of the start of the second week, I'm like, actually, don't really need you. You can go. He's like, okay then. So yeah, I mean, It's trying to work out what works best for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, it's communication, right? But it's also a case of not knowing what the hell to do, almost, especially
Yeah.
when you have a kid, because you've never done it before, right? It's almost like a whole new thing that you've got to learn. And it's like,
Yeah.
do I do this? Don't I do this? Do I get out your way? Do I get fully involved? Um, and for me, I was quite lucky with work. I think I had 6 weeks off when Harry was born.
Yep.
Um, but from a selfish perspective as well, I was just buzzing to have 6 weeks off. Like, not even, I know
Yeah.
there's going to be a new baby there, but I'm having 6 weeks off is like a summer holiday of school. Um, so I don't know, it's good just being there. But then in that first 6 weeks, I couldn't really do much anyway apart from changing nappies, because she has to do all the feeding. She has to wake up and feed him. I can't do that until he moves off breast milk onto bottles or whatever. Um, but yeah, it's a tough one, and I think it's got easier like you've noticed probably. It's got easier as you go along,
Mm,
and like you've noticed with Lara, you don't need as much help from him because you kind of know what you're doing. You're an expert
yeah.
now, so it might not feel as bad or as stressful. But you still has started, but you're kind of so used to it that you kind of just get on with it almost.
Yeah.
Um, and with the date nights thing, staying indoors all the time, I think that's pretty common to be honest. We don't really do much apart from maybe watch a bit of Netflix. Like she might go to netball on a Thursday or whatever. But that took time for her to start going out and socialising and me socialising. We still majority of the time we'll just stay in and watch a bit of Netflix. What I think is what a lot of people do. Um,
Yeah.
especially if you don't have much free time. If you're working 8 hours a day, um, and you've got other things to do in the evening or whatever, then sometimes it's a bit of a treat, like just binging a series and
Yeah.
getting a takeaway or something.
Yeah.
'Cause that's kind of as good as it gets at this stage of
Yeah.
relationship. Like you obviously have your nights out and like you
Yeah.
might go to a restaurant every now and again. Um, but it's not like when you first start dating. Realistically, it'll never be like that again.
No.
Maybe when the kids grow up and they're like moved out, you can start seeing the world. You might have a bit more money, and you can go together and that. Or you might just realise you absolutely hate each other and then get a divorce. But it's,
Yeah.
it's just one of those things that you just don't know, do you? So just depends how much you like each other, innit? If you can put up with
Mm,
it.
yeah.
Um, yeah, but some people don't make it to the baby stage. Like we should, like we're lucky that we made it to that stage. Like I've been with
Yeah.
Chief for 8 years in April, um, and a lot of people break up after 6 months, a year, 2 years. So and they just constantly in these recycled relationships every so
Yeah.
often. I've got mates who like early 30s now, and they haven't got a missus, so and they haven't even on that spectrum yet of trying to have a kid, settle down, and whatever. So yeah, I guess you got to look at it from that perspective as well. Like if you're still with someone after all this time and having 2 kids down, married,
Mm.
and the fact that he's living with mother-in-law and your parents stuff, that's a tough one. I couldn't do that. So
Yeah. I know.
kudos for him for that. Um, and he's building your house. Stop moaning. Um,
All right. All right. No, you got his back.
um, but yeah, like you've got to look at it as if you've got this far, then realistically, it's all right, isn't
Mm.
it? But yeah, I don't know.
With your mates, is it because they don't want to be in a relationship?
Uh, he's had about 3 girlfriends now. The last one sort of left him for. Oh, they've all left him to be fair. I think but then they're quite high maintenance, so they kind of want a lot of effort put in and things like that. Which is just it's fine if they want that, but he's not the sort of guy who's going to give them that. So
Mm.
I think he always gets to the 3 year mark, and then it's kind of curtains really. So
You're
it's
right.
just yeah. So it's
See
kind
you
of
later.
yeah, literally yeah. So you got to pick your battles almost. Like it's just
Yeah.
it's a tough one. But then you don't know what the person's. Yes, well, you're getting to know people really still after about a year and a half, 2 years. And you've got that stage of moving in, and that's a whole
Yeah.
new ball game and whatever.
Yeah.
So you never know how that's going to happen. And once you have kids, obviously, it's even more of a test. So
Yeah.
that could fuck things up.
Mm.
So there's always constant mountains to get over, but it's all about survival, right? Survival of the fittest.
It is, yeah. When before, when you were younger, right? Did you have like a shopping list of who you wanted or who you wanted to date or get married?
Not really. It's kind of just whoever I clicked with. 'Cause at the time, I had all the apps like Tinder and whatever. Went on a few dates, and then had a date with Cheech, and I was like, yeah, this is all right.
Yeah,
And you kind of just sort of know. It's really hard to put a finger on why. Um, I don't know. It's hard, but yeah, I wouldn't really put it down as a shopping list. I never would have thought I would have had an Asian girlfriend with an half Asian kid.
yeah,
Never would have expected that. Um, and she's from Birmingham, so I never would have thought I had a Brummie missus.
yeah.
Um, Brummie Vietnamese girl. I would have thought she's from stuff from someone from like Croydon, Addo or something. But
Hey, there's nothing wrong with Croydon. Eh? Ah?
it's all right. It's all right. Yeah, you just don't know, do you? You don't know who you're going to click with. So,
Yeah.
and it's the
True.
same with mates as well. Like, I've had the same mate since secondary school, really, since we met. I was what, 12, 13. So, and we're now 31, 32. Some of them 33 this year. But we all still get on like house on fire. It's just like
Mm.
we're all very similar though. We're basically the same person, but just in different bodies. So I think
Yeah.
that helps. Uh, Same with my uni mates. Well, we met. I've known for 13 years now. But first day we met, we just sort of all clicked.
Yeah.
And it's just so. It's just. I know they say fate might not be real and things like that, but when you meet certain people, you're like, oh, this must be sort of fate. Like even me and you doing
Oh,
this podcast now, right? It's like who would have thought we were doing a podcast together?
I know.
And the only reason we're working together because you got stuck on an account I used to work on after you came back from maternity leave, and I was on
Yeah.
furlough. So I didn't even know if I was going to come back to a job. So
Yeah.
it's kind of it's almost you can pick and choose who you want. I've met loads of people right through work and whatever, and there's just some people you just think you know you're going to make an effort with, and you know who you're not going to make an effort with, and I think
Yeah.
it's all down to sort of judge of character and things like that, and it's down to you as a person really,
Mm.
what sort of people you want to surround yourself with.
Yeah. It's a good point because you're talking about friendships here. I think uni is probably the time that I made like solid friends, and I don't have like a massive group of friends. I have probably like a handful,
Mm.
less than a handful probably. And of those sort of like the handful, there's two mates from uni that I still chat to this day, and it's like years ago when we went to uni. And the thing is, we don't chat daily. We don't even message like even weekly. Sometimes we'll be here and there. I'll send them like a meme on Instagram and we'll laugh about it, ha ha ha. And their parents as well, so we can chat about things that maybe we can relate to. But it's weird because they don't live. They're not local to me, and I barely see them. And when we try to arrange to meet up, I mean, we very rarely meet, but when we do try to arrange to meet up, it's impossible to try and align our calendars. It's either, I can't do that day or she can't do because her son's got a very sort of social life compared to her. So things like that, I'm just like, well, with friendships, you don't have to see each other every day to make a friendship work. Just sometimes just messaging you, are you all right? Is everything okay? And that's enough for us, which I don't know whether that's normal. Is that what you do with your mates? But you see your mates though.
Yeah, well, I only see my mates locally because they all live down the road, so that's easy. And we go
Mhm.
football every Saturday, so we have like something to go to. It's almost like a meeting point. We're at an
Yeah,
age where it's like we're not going out clubbing and that, but the football is sort of our getaway, whatever.
yeah,
Um, but no, I'll see my uni mates maybe once a month because they live a bit further out, or yeah, even just some people I'll just chat to every now and again. But then when you meet up, it's like you haven't not seen each other for however long. So
yeah,
yeah, if you've got a friendship like that, it shouldn't matter as long as you've. It's the odd one where you're like, oh, I can't be bothered to see them. But as soon as you think like that, realistically, they're probably not your mate. They're just
yeah,
an acquaintance who probably was pretty close at the time, but which you can say about a lot of work colleagues, to be honest. Some people just naturally fade away from.
yeah,
Then you know your close mates, so you would make an effort to see them, so or talk to them or whatever. So
yeah.
I think that still counts. Yeah.
That's true. That's true. I mean, with we're local to each other. We're literally what 10 minutes away from each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
But We don't meet up, but we message quite
Yeah.
often about just random shit.
Yeah, exactly. That's all you need, right? That's all you need.
That's all you need, man. It's a digital age, isn't it? That's how you communicate.
Yeah, at least not back in the. I remember, I say back in the day. Like, even when I was younger, like people had to call my mum and dad's house phone to talk to me, and I'd be like,
Yes.
oh no, not him. Say I'm not in.
Just
Didn't
say I'm not
answer the phone.
here. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Whereas now it's almost like no escape because you're on WhatsApp,
Yeah.
and Facebook, and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, scary to think of that, but yeah.
Okay. Another thing that I forgot to mention about relationships is what has made us stronger. Besides the whole, get married, having kids, labor, giving birth. That's got to make your relationship much stronger. Like you can tell me about it, like how it went for you. Like,
It
how
was
did you
all right.
find it?
I'm not really phased by much. Like things don't really gross me out like that. But I think because the labour was just so long, I think in total it was like 14 hours. So when it first started, I was really nervous. Like, oh, what's it going to be like? And then by the sort of 10th hour of watching your missus like legs spread, blood everywhere, fucking like just nurse shouting, "Come on, come on, come on!" You almost just get like you're almost like you're with the nurse. You're like, "Come on, keep going." You're down the other end. You're just like, "Can you film it?" I'm filming the whole thing.
Yeah, did you film it?
Yeah, yeah. She wanted me to film it, so we got all that on camera. She's shown a few people actually
Wow.
the video.
Wow.
Yeah, by the end of it, it was worse after, to be honest, because when Harry was born, he didn't cry straight away, and then
Right.
like three nurses rushed in, and like they just
Mm.
grabbed him, like and just rubbing his back really fast, and we're just staring like, what the fuck's going on here? And then
Yeah.
luckily he was just being lazy; he just couldn't be bothered to cry,
Right.
and then it's fine. But that after that, I was just, she was knackered, man. She couldn't even stand up. And
Yeah.
that was like, I was like, shit, this is like real. And I'm like, they said to me, can you put some clothes on him? I'm like, what? I was like, yeah, all right. But I'm like now I wouldn't care. I'll just chuck the clothes on, shoving him around everywhere.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, this is a delicate thing. I'm like, am I going to break his arm if I just do it too hard, or like, is a
Yeah.
newborn breathing?
Yeah.
I have no idea what I was doing. Then it said, can you feed him some milk? Yeah. Have you got any? Because we haven't. Oh, you didn't bring any? No. Why would I? And they got us some. Just put it in his mouth. He's just like staring at me, like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
He didn't have any of it. So I'm like, "Ugh, should he be? Is he going to die if he doesn't drink this?" So I think
Yeah.
that initial like whole labour itself and that few hours after was very like shit. Got
Yeah.
to step up now. Got to, and that definitely brought us closer together. I think
Yeah.
it's a weird experience. You know, you only really go through it once, right, or twice. So
Yeah.
yeah, tough one.
Did it make you appreciate Chi more? Go through that.
Yeah, when I saw her like that knackered after, she couldn't even like tilt her head to the side or anything. She just couldn't move. And then I had to drive back, so I couldn't see the aftermath. But she was saying how the nurses just sort of left her to it, and she's like,
Mm.
I haven't eaten for like 2 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a rough one, but definitely puts things into perspective a little bit. Because it's just like I said, it's just one of those. It's just one thing that you will never really witness more than once or twice. So
Yeah.
it's hard to compare it to anything, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's weird.
Yeah.
I know what it's like for you, but
First time round, yeah, like you said, like you just don't know what to expect in it. Had a water birth with both the girls. I think Simon was just really good. Like he could make a good midwife. Like he was very encouraging.
yeah,
By the second, when we were with Lara, the midwife actually said to Simon, "You would make a really good midwife." Simon was like, "I know." Like he's just very calming. Like that's just like his nature is calming. And for both the girls, is like water birth. And Simon was very like encouraging. He's like, "You can do it," and he started breathing with me at the same time, like
nice.
to help me regulate my breathing.
Yeah,
That helped a lot. It definitely made our marriage stronger. Just yeah, like you said, you don't go through this with anyone else, right? Besides your partner, and it's like a thing that you do regularly. I think the thing that made me think, oh God, this guy is for life, is when I was giving birth to Lara, and again it was a water birth, and I haven't told you this because it's like obviously a bit nasty, but whatever, we're sharing it now. So with Lara, when I gave birth to her, it was another water birth. We gave birth at East Surrey Hospital. The midwives were great. They were wicked. But it took ages because my waters didn't burst. So they had to physically burst it. But it was only 7 hours in. Then they realized, oh, okay, you know what, your waters aren't going to burst by itself. We've got to physically break it for you. But throughout that whole sort of labor, I was in the big sort of birthing pool, and I really needed to wee. Like I had to wee. So I couldn't physically get out of the tub because it was just too painful. And you have to go down the stairs and then walk back and go to the toilet or whatever. I was like, I can't do it. I felt like she was going to come out. So I stood up, and Simon was like, okay, cool. I've got this like paper sort of a bucket type of thing, the cardboard bucket. So I stood up and I was like weeing, and he was holding the paper thing underneath my obviously my vagina. And I was like, this is not the finest moment for me because I'm standing up there and he's holding the paper thing, and I got stage fright because I was like, oh, I can't wee.
It's weird. No wonder, Jesus.
Oh, and it wasn't the one off. I kept needing to wee. So every time I was like, okay, cool, let me grab the sort of cardboard bucket. And every time I stood up, I'm like, again, I got stage fright. So it took a while. And then blood was coming out at the same time. And I thought, oh man, this guy must really love me to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think at one point he said, when I was in the bathtub, in the birthing pool, he said apparently some poo came out. So, I don't know whether he or the midwife scooped it up, but he's like, yeah, I think I'm pretty sure some poo came out of you. I'm like, fuck. I didn't realize because I had my eyes closed.
When he says pretty sure, he means he definitely saw shit.
Yeah. So yeah, if your partner can scoop shit out for you, can hold a bucket as you're pissing, he's for keep, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, she's thrown up at me a few times, mainly because she's been drunk. So
okay. And did you hold it?
Hold her hair back. She threw up on my mum and dad's driveway once. She's gonna hate me for saying this, but my dad cleaned that all up. I love that. It's fine. My parents are cool, so it's fine. But that was funny. But yeah, stuff like that. It's gross things. You don't really care if you like someone that much. So
yeah,
it just doesn't really phase you, does it?
No.
So your kids, if they shit themselves, like, ugh, gross. But then you still clean it up. So
that's true. Yeah.
Someone's got to do it.
Yes. And you mentioned a good point earlier, and this kind of ties in with what we're talking about, like relationships and culture clash. Because obviously, for anyone that doesn't know, Rob is white. He's not Asian. Yep. He's not Asian. How's it? Yeah, how did it come about? Like, how did you find going into a relationship where it's not white?
It was fine. So when we first met, we went on a couple of dates, and I think on like second or third date, we went for like finished up for like a Chinese in a restaurant. But it was the first time I really used chopsticks. Like I never really used them until that point. I was like 23 at this point, 23.
Yeah.
I never used chopsticks. I mean, I kind of had an idea, but like obviously going into a date with an Asian girl, I'm feeling the pressure here because I'm like, she's going to judge me for not being able to use them. But she was cool with it. So she just taught me how to do it. So that's kind of my first sort of experience of not knowing how to do things. But I feel like that's pretty minor. It's more because all our family are up north, we don't see him a huge amount as we do compared to my family.
Yeah.
But I remember the first time I met her, she waited 2 years to introduce me to her parents.
Right.
Mainly because she just couldn't be asked with the ag. It wasn't because she didn't want to, but she just knows.
Right.
She knew for me it would be a big experience.
Yeah.
Because it's completely different. Like it's not like meeting my parents. I think she met my parents after like 2 weeks. Not even that.
Right.
We went round and had a roast dinner. It was just casual. It was nice. It's just the girl I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Whereas for them, it's like a big thing. So, and I remember we went to this. I think it was maybe a sister's birthday or something. And we went into this Chinese restaurant, one of the big ones, all the round tables, whatever. And then her dad walks in, slowly followed by her grandma, her granddad, like two of her aunties, and it's gone from just meeting the parents and maybe a couple others to the entire bloody family turned up. I remember she just looked at me like, oh, shit, because it's intense with the parents alone and the grandparents who
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
super traditional Vietnamese, don't barely speak a word of English. Um, Already judging me for being white. I'm not a Vietnamese
Yeah.
Catholic boy. He's like, just say you're Catholic, say you're Catholic. It's all right, I'm Catholic. Um, yeah, it's tough. And then, but it kind of gets easier as you go on, though.
Mm.
They don't. It's not really an issue, to be honest. They always say when you get married, things like that. But we're kind of past that point. We're engaged, but well, after COVID hit, we just gave up with those plans, and then we had Harry
Yeah.
instead. So, um,
Yeah.
but their family seemed to really like me. Like the grandma actually occasionally tried to speak English to me once. She said she never
Yeah.
does that for anyone. So I was like, oh, I was quite taken aback by that. It's quite cool.
Yeah.
Um, and the family are all nice to me, so I can't really complain. Um, and then the family in Vietnam love me. Like when we go, we've visited them twice, but they've
Yeah.
never seen a white guy. So for them, it's like I'm some sort of Hollywood actor walking in, Brad Pitt. They're like, all right, guys, but they just couldn't believe how like tall I was, how
Yeah.
like the granddad kept like touching my arms and my legs like I'm some sort of like some sort of freak. But I was just letting him do it. I'm like, yeah, it's fine. He's never seen a white guy. It's fine. So he's not touching him. Um, but no, it's fine in it. And then obviously you get used to everything. Like the food now is like second nature. I wouldn't have never have
Yeah.
really. I doubt I ever would have had Vietnamese food. Really, I don't
Yeah.
know why I would have. I love it. Like, I'm so lucky that I managed to get to do that because I wouldn't have tried all these great things. I wouldn't have had Harry really.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't be seeing all these countries and like visiting Vietnam, these random places you never would have even heard of.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's kind of just one of those things. I think it's easier for some people rather than others. I know if I wasn't white, if I was another race, it might not be so easy. Um,
Mm.
like because a lot of the Vietnamese people are still quite overtly, uh, slightly, ever so slightly racist. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, it's tougher for some people than others. Yeah, but I think I get off lightly because I'm Western and I'm white. So
Yeah.
um, it would have been. They definitely would have loved it if I was Vietnamese. They always say, "Oh, we can." To their cousins and things like that, that they can sort them out of a wife back home if they really need to. So um, yeah, it's been all right. It's a bit daunting, but I think it's all right in the end. I think
Yeah.
that's the crux of it.
Would you, obviously, now that you've got Harry, would you want him to be brought up more Western or Asian?
Um, doesn't really bother me. She is really adamant on him learning Vietnamese, which is fine.
Mm.
Like, there's no reason why I wouldn't let him do that. Um, it's a tough one. I don't know if he's going to be able to do it because the way she learned it was because her parents basically didn't speak English, so they just spoke
Right.
Vietnamese constantly, which I imagine
Yeah.
is what it's like for like your mum and dad. They just speak a lot of Chinese, right? So you just pick it up quicker. Um, and it's not like she obviously cooks a lot of Vietnamese dishes, Asian dishes, which
Yeah.
is great. So he'll eat all that stuff. He's already eating it now, so he'll
Yeah.
pick all that side of things up. Um, and obviously when you go back home, I think it will just have a mix of both, to be honest. But I think
Mm.
once you go to school and once you make your friends, realistically, they're going to be majority. Well, Croydon, you never know. So multicultural here, you don't know who his friends will be. So he'll
Yeah.
pick up. Realistically, he'll have the Croydon culture. Lucky him.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Nothing wrong with Croydon culture.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's interesting because do you think it would have made things not easier but smoother if you dated someone that was English?
uh, Maybe meeting the parents thing wouldn't have been such a big event, maybe, and it wouldn't have been as daunting for Chi, maybe. Um, I don't know. I have no idea unless you do it. Some parents could be super conservative, might not want
Hmm.
to meet a boyfriend unless you get married to him. I guess it's just
Yeah.
totally dependent on the other side, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it's like because you met Si's parents. Well, obviously you've met Si's parents, but you said they're very different to yours, right?
Yeah. Well, Si's dad is dead, like a long
Okay,
time ago. Uh,
bluntly.
Si was only 8 when his dad passed away.
Okay.
So it's just the mum. The mum lives local. She lives in the Heath, Thornton Heath. But we rarely see her. You know, we don't see her enough. I think that's just the way that Si's family works. Like they don't often meet each other, whereas I see my parents daily, speak to my sister
Yeah.
daily. So there's different sort of vibes. Like we call Simon a banana because he's, for anyone that don't know what a banana is, yellow on the front, on the outside, white on the inside. So he's like a white guy. And if you speak to Simon, if you don't see his face, you think, oh, this is a white guy just based on his accent. The first time my dad met him, my dad was like, oh, he sounds really common. I went, yeah, it's just very different, his accents compared to like what you would naturally expect. Like, because he's Viet as well. He's like, but he was born here, so he's like me, but he's like a white guy because he doesn't speak any Cantonese or Mandarin or Viet for that matter, and he doesn't understand a word of Viet. Like Cantonese, he understands quite a lot, but he just doesn't say it. But he understands it, but he wouldn't like verbally say anything about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's hard because I was British born. I am British born, what we call BBC, British born Chinese. And if I get asked the question, like, do you see yourself more Chinese, more British? I don't know. It depends on the people that I hang around with. It depends on that sort of the context of what I'm chatting about. Like, for example, if I'm at work and I'm in a room full of more English people, white people, then yeah, I would feel more Chinese because I'm the odd one out. Because I'm always going to be the minority when you're working in our industry. But if I'm like surrounded by my uni mates, then I feel more British because we're all like Chinese, but we feel more British because we're chatting in English. So yeah, it depends. I don't feel like I'm, more British or more Chinese. It just depends on the people that I hang out with.
Yeah, it's literally at the end of the day, isn't it? It's who you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
Yeah, because your family's your family, right? You're always going to act a certain way
Yeah.
around them. But I feel like your friends define you a bit more to who you are. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and I always think that because, like you said, the thing you mentioned about Vietnamese people being overtly racist, or Chinese people, and the older generation are 100% racist for sure.
Yeah.
And from young, like we were always told, don't date anyone that isn't, Chinese. Don't even date like Japanese people. Like you can't, absolutely a no-no if you're going to date Japanese people because of the history between like China and Japan. That would have been an absolute like deal breaker. So in my head, consciously, like at uni, I'm always like, I can't date anyone that's not Chinese.
Yeah.
So it makes it a little bit harder, and that like because I've got 2 girls, how do I want them to be brought up? Like, if I'm honest, I want to bring them up more Chinese than British because, like you said earlier, right? They go to school, they go nursery, they're going to pick up English naturally. So that's my job to kind of teach them more sort of Cantonese side and how to be Chinese. And we are different. We look different. But for Mila at the moment, I don't think she quite knows what that looks like. She doesn't know that there's different races. She just sees everyone as the same thing. Like she'll explain, someone's like hair and but she wouldn't actually talk about their skin color. So it's interesting when you have kids, like how do you want them to be brought up? And yeah, for me, I want them to be brought up more Chinese.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, because it's like it's almost half your side and half the side that eventually they'll find for themselves. So
yeah,
it's a nice little blend, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a blend. Yep. Yeah, and that pretty much is a wrap for our episode.
Yep. So if you have any burning questions, or if you have any examples of sort of experiences you guys have had, we're not sure if you guys are in a mixed relationship or if you've had any similar experiences to us, please let us know. We can answer those questions. But yeah, please follow all our socials as always, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.